Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Zora Chaos and welcome to the table. Today I'm going to cover magic resolution and then verbal combat, and that'll be probably the rest of the videos until I actually get investigation as a video. So let's get it going. Magic attacks. Magical attacks are a mage's main weapon and a good backup for witchers and priests. The effects of these attacks can vary, but they all use will instead of ref or dex. The formula for magic attacks is will stat plus spell casting skill and 1d10. Vigor threshold and stamina. Casting spells, invocations, and signs draw magic, referred to as chaos, from the elemental realms through your body to create a magical effect. Every magic capable character has a vigor threshold which shows how much magic you can channel through your body in one round before you start to damage yourself. You can cast as many spells as your actions allow so long as the total stamina cost is below or equal to your vigor threshold. Your power also depends on your stamina derived statistic. This is how much magic you can use before you become exhausted and pass out. When you cast a spell or huge magic, you subtract the stamina cost from your stamina. If you have no stamina left, you become stunned and must recover 20 points of stamina via recovery actions and make a stun save to recover. Overexerted priests. Priests use magic differently from mages. They draw a little bit of magic from many different elements to achieve the effect they want. This means that a priest who overexerts or fumbles always uses the mixed elemental fumble result. Magic users. While many groups of people are capable of accessing a small amount of magic, only some of those people are powerful enough to be considered magic users. When this book refers to magic users, this encompasses both priests and mages, but not witchers. Priests also includes druids. Magic criticals. Magic that causes physical damage can cause critical wounds. If the magic strikes the opponent with a physical force, a rock, shard of ice, blast of air, or the like, the attack can cause critical wounds like a regular weapon. So, that does not include fire spells, because they are not physical. Earth damage, yes. Air damage, yes. Water damage, yes. Fire damage, no. So, magic fumble outcome 1 to 6. Magic sparks and crackles, and you take 1 point of damage for every point you fumbled by. But the spell still goes off. That's important to remember. 7 to 9. Magic that is already partially through you ignites inside you. Not only does the spell fail, but you suffer an elemental fumble effect, as noted below. 9 over. Your magic explodes with a catastrophic effect. Not only do you suffer an elemental fumble effect, but any focusing item you are carrying explodes as if for a bomb. This is where an exception occurs when it comes to damage. It does 1d10 damage with a 2-meter radius. So that's the only thing that does a d10 worth of damage. When you have a focus and they explode. Mixed. Magic sparks out of your body. You not only take 1 point of damage for every point you fumble, but also suffer one of the elements effects below, chosen randomly by the GM. So these are random in the case of a mixed effect. But if you fumble an earth effect or air, fire, and water, these also happen to you. The earth around you rocks. You take 1 point of damage for every point you fumbled by and are also stunned. For earth, air. The air rushes around you. You take 1 point of damage for every point you fumbled by and are thrown back 2 meters. Fire. Your body bursts into flames. You take 1 point of damage for every point you fumbled and are also set on fire. Water. Frost crackles and hardens around your body. You take 1 point of damage for every point you fumbled by and are also frozen. Overexertion and fumbles. While casting magic, you can overexert yourself to cast bigger spell, invocations, or signs. You can attempt to cast a form of magic that has a larger stamina cost than your vigor threshold by sacrificing health points. For every 1 point of stamina cost beyond your vigor threshold, you must spend 5 HP. When overexerting yourself to cast a spell, you also roll on the elemental fumble effects table. So you also roll on this. Or actually, you roll on this. If you fumble while casting magic, well, actually, you roll on this. Never mind. Belay that the first time I was correct. If you fumble while casting magic, you risk damaging your body. As with any fumble, you must apply the total fumble roll to the appropriate fumble table. In this case, this is the magic fumble outcome table. So, if you fumble, you roll on this. If you overexert yourself, you roll on this. Honestly, I would rule 1 to 2 is mixed, and then etc. For you roll a d10, and this is divided in twos here. Magical focuses. Mages and priests can use magical staves and amulets to lower the stamina cost of a spell by a specific amount based on the focus. Magical focuses can never bring a stamina cost below 1 point and must be in the mage's hand to work. A mage or priest can only utilize 1 focus at a time, even when carrying several. Weaving magic through focuses takes a great deal of attention and control. Dimaterium, Bane of Magic. Dimaterium is a precious metal found sparsely all over the world. Due to its composition, it has anti-magic properties, which makes it impossible for average magic users to summon up magic while touching the substance. The very presence of Dimaterium can lessen a magic user's vigor threshold by 1 for every unit of it within 5 meters. When forced to touch Dimaterium, a magic user reduces their vigor threshold to 0 and must make an endurance check, DC 16, and apply the results from the Dimaterium effects table. This check must be made every half hour as long as contact continues. So if you roll over 18, it does nothing but make you itch. If you roll over a 16 but under 18, your skin feels itchy and you feel mildly queasy, but you are unimpaired. You roll equal and greater than 14. Your skin feels itchy, you feel queasy, and your body spasms from time to time. Every 1d6 turns, roll a DC 15 endurance check or be staggered. Equal or greater than 12, your skin burns and your stomach is roiling. You are nauseated. Equal or greater than 10. Your skin feels like it's on fire and can barely focus on anything. You must roll stun saves every round. Less than 10. Equal or less than 10. The Diametrium boils the magic in your system, and you take 1d6 damage per round that you are touching the Diametrium. There's a little lore bit over here. Diametrium is a strange mineral that damps the use of magic. Nilfgaardian mage hunters use cuffs, chains, and weapons made of a bluish alloy of diametrium and iron. It is the best defense against mages, assuming you could put the diametrium on them. No one knows how it works, and it occurs rarely in the north, mainly in Kovir and Povis, like everything else the gods may have put in the ground. If you figure out why it works, be sure to let the university's chemists know. It's driving them insane. Brandon of Oxenford. Highly skilled magic users. Highly skilled magic users like Yennefer of Venderberg or the infamous Vilgefortz of Rogdavine are capable of feats that most average mages couldn't even dream of. Magic spells normally rely on incantations and hand gestures. However, high spellcasting skill allows magic users to omit certain components when casting, as shown below. 1 to 6. All magic requires spoken words and hand gestures, so this is the skill rank. Not your skill base, your skill rank. 7 to 8. Spells, invocations only require hand gestures. 9 to 10. Spells, invocations only require minor gestures, which can be made with any part of the body. Alright. Magic targeting. Spells and invocations affect different number of targets depending upon their range. Direct. Direct spells affect one or more targets specifically, but do not affect you or the area nearby. These spells act much like standard ranged attacks. If the target is willing, you only have to roll spellcasting and not fumble. Area of effect. Area of effect spells fill a certain area and affect anyone inside it. These spells act much like direct spells, except that anyone in the area must make a defensive roll against your spellcasting roll. If the spell doesn't have a defense, you only have to roll and not fumble. Self-affecting. Self-affecting spells only affect the caster of the spell. To cast a spell-affecting spell, you only have to roll a spellcasting roll and not fumble. Not fumbling is always important. Though, with a D10 system, 1 in 10 chance every time that you do. Rituals. Rituals require more focus and precision than the average spell or incantation. Casting a ritual requires specific components for the ritual and significant time. Much like crafting, you must spend the amount of time listed for the ritual first. Next, roll a ritual crafting check against the DC of the ritual. If you succeed, the ritual is successful. If you fail, the ritual has no effect and the ritual components are used up. If you fumble a ritual, you take 1 point of damage for each point of stamina spent. That's important. If you fumble, you fail, and also you take damage. Being interrupted. If you are interrupted by something before you could finish the ritual, you must make a ritual crafting roll to keep focus and continue. The DC to continue the ritual is 15 if you are shaken, bumped, yelled at, or had something tossed at you. If you are attacked and physically harmed, the DC to continue the ritual is 18. If you are physically removed from the ritual area, you can continue if you get back to the area in 1 round and make a DC 16 ritual crafting check. Group rituals. Other people can help you perform a ritual. These people don't have to be magically potent, but they must be able-bodied enough to help draw chalk circles, place ritual items, or recite text. Every person you have helping you, maximum of 4, lowers the DC of the ritual by 1. That means having a group to do a ritual is a good thing. Hexes. Hexes function a bit differently from both spells, invocations, and rituals. To weave a hex, you must draw not only a certain amount of magic, but also personal hatred for the targeted person or place. Failing to cast a hex does nothing. There's no backfire unless you fumble. If you do fumble, you have a 50% chance of inflicting the hex on yourself. This replaces the standard elemental effects and damage from fumbling a form of magic. So, the defense for hexes is resist magic. It's not inside of the rule text for the game, but that is part of the Sage's Answers that Cody Pondsmith posted on the our Talsorian Discord. Now, I'm not going to go over Cavalry because that's not part of the video for today. I'm not going to go over healing. We're going to go over verbal combat. Now, remember, this is an optional rule. However, I like this optional rule. It's really cool. Verbal combat. When you're running a more diplomatic game, or have a lot of bards, merchants, or talkative characters, you may want to use verbal combat system, which grants persuasion and other verbal skills their own combat. When starting a verbal combat, each party establishes what their goal is in the combat. Each player then determines their resolve, which acts as their health points for the verbal combat. Resolve equals will plus int divided by 2 times 5. A verbal combat works much like regular combat, which each person using an attack and their target defending one of the defenses noted on the next page. The person who rolls higher does the damage listed to their opponent's resolve. The person whose resolve falls to 0 first loses the combat and is convinced of whatever their opponent is arguing. A verbal combat can take place between any number of people, and you can aim attacks at any or all of your opponents in the argument, who all get a chance to defend. Each person who succeeds in defending does damage to the attacker's resolve. Instead of attacking, you could use one of the verbal combat tools. These take one full turn to use, but help you in a verbal combat. Empathetic versus antagonistic. Verbal attacks are split up into empathetic and antagonistic. Empathetic attacks aim to endear your target to you. They offer more options, but tend to be weaker and entirely reliant on your empathy. Antagonistic attacks, on the other hand, are often more powerful and can benefit from torture and torment. The catch is that antagonistic attacks are more likely to win you the combat and ensure that your target either avoids you or acts as your enemy in the future. So there's some positive benefits and negatives to this. Making friends. Making a friend of your opponent makes them an official acquaintance. As per life path, they will be friendly towards you and won't actively act against you without good reason. The second time you befriend an opponent, you make them a dedicated friend. This means they will not only be friendly, but also be likely to do things for you and help you out. The third time you befriend an opponent, they become a broad brother and will just do just about anything for you as long as it's reasonable. So, Empathetic attacks include seduce, persuade, appeal, and befriend. Using seduction, persuasion, leadership, and charisma for 1d6 empathy, 1d6 divided by 2 plus empathy, 1d10 empathy, and 1d6 empathy. Antagonistic attacks are deceive, ridicule, and intimidate. With deceit, social etiquette, and intimidation, 1d6 plus int, 1d6 plus will, and 1d10 will. Defenses: ignore, counter argue, change the subject, and disengage. Resist coercion. See, there's an extra effect page. Change persuasion and resist coercion. 1d10 plus amp. See attack. 1d6 plus int, and none. Empathetic tools, romance, and study. These give you some modifiers. And antagonistic tools, imply and bribe. Modifiers in verbal combat. Just like in To the Death combat, verbal combat can also use modifiers to augment rolls. If you're trying to intimidate a fully armed and armored knight with a spoon, or trying to seduce a grieving widower at their wife's funeral, it's going to be quite a bit harder than convincing a bartender to give you a drink on the house. On the other hand, bribing a greedy toll keeper or convincing someone to do something they might want to do anyway is easier than getting that aforementioned drink. Largely, modifiers in the verbal combat are left to GM's discretion. When in doubt, keep in mind that a mild modifier is a 1, a moderate modifier is a 3, and a major modifier is a 5. This should allow you to add modifiers to just about any situation by gauging the severity of the situation. Torture and torment. If you have a target at your mercy and you do damage to them, you take negatives to empathetic attacks and gain bonuses to antagonistic attacks. Harming a target gives you a -3 to empathetic attacks, but grants a +3 to intimidation. Bringing a target down to their wound threshold gives you a -10 to empathetic attacks, but a +10 to intimidation. So, if you're going to torture someone for information and using intimidation, good idea to use that. Trying to gain empathy, though, bad idea. Alright, and with that, that's the end of the video. Next time I might cover transit, but out of that, we're just going to go into investigation next time. So ta-ta and cheers!